Today I ducked up by eating way too much of a pot brownie. This was a few weeks ago, but the repercussions can still be felt. I am a high school senior who is having some fun in their final year of high school, so naturally, I have been smoking a bit of weed with my friends overnight most weekends, as you do. We had tried edibles before, but only had taken 75 milligrams max, and we didn't get as much out of it as we hear people have gotten. Now, 4 of my friends and I were at my house on a Saturday night planning to eat a pot brownie one of us had acquired. So we waited until my parents had gone to sleep and at around 10:30 decide to chow down. I am quite stoic about being really safe when it comes to stuff like this, that's why whenever we smoke it will be in the evening and somewhere we can stay the night or catch an Uber from to avoid driving. So me being me, I asked my friend a lot of questions about how much was in it and how long we will be feeling the effects for, as he is far more experienced than any of us, or so I thought. He said there was about 1000 milligrams, so 200 each, which is a pretty insane amount for stupid teenagers who have either never done this or done very little. However, he reassured us that it's a normal amount and we should stop feeling the effects fully about 12 to 14 hours after. Now, here comes the part where I get ridiculously high. We split it up into rough fifths and knew it wouldn't be distributed evenly, so we decided the heaviest people should take the middle, thicker pieces, and the smallest should eat the outside pieces. Fair enough. I grabbed the duck-in fat middle piece and shoved it all in my mouth. Now, there's a possibility I had just slammed 300 milligrams of THC into my empty stomach, and about half an hour later that shit hit me all at once. I was sitting on the couch watching my friends play Mario Kart Wii when I started to feel it, and 2 minutes after that I told them it might have been a bad idea because the television screen had already started wobbling. 10 minutes later, one of my friends who for some reason wasn't at all affected started prompting me to join whatever conversation was going on. I started to look towards him, but literally the act of movement was so overstimulating it was insanely uncomfortable and anxiety-inducing. So he walked over to me and looked me in the eyes and asked what was wrong, and the moment he got a good look at me he knew I was already out visiting Voyager 2. He was also quite worried because he felt my heartbeat, which was at about 150 at that point, and saw my breathing quicken every second due to my internal freakout. I was able to sputter out the words "help me, bed." He basically carried me upstairs to my room, which was a feat, as he is a 140-pound tall and skinny Indian dude and I'm a hefty 195-pounder. I then proceeded to lie in my bed staring out the window looking at what seemed to me like one of those big brain memes, you know the ones I'm talking about. I passed out for a couple of hours and woke up at a point that I was able to walk and kind of hold a decent conversation, only to discover the brownie guy passed out on the bathroom floor post throwing up, and another friend who was carried by the same Indian dude to our pull-out couch in the front room. Out of the 2 friends left, there were Indian dude and another friend who didn't really feel anything that night. After waking up at about 10 in the morning, I discovered brownie guy buggered off via Uber at about 6 in the morning for whatever reason, which only added to my growing annoyance, and Indian dude and couch friend still at about a 3/10 along with me. However, that friend who didn't feel anything the whole night was at about the level I was when I was carried to bed, and maintained that way until a very unhappy mother of his had to come to pick him up because he couldn't drive himself home and had promised to be home by noon. My mother had already figured out what was up and was probably more amused by our general stupidity and seeing me still moderately high along with my friends who stayed the day to let it wear off than she was mad about the whole situation. My repercussions weren't that bad, just my mom asking me not to get high at home, which was rather surprising to me. But mother who had to drive home her kid was literally threatening the brownie kid with a lawsuit since he is 18 and some of us are 17, and he provided the drugs. Long story short, those 2 can't be in the same room together without a legal battle at risk, which makes it pretty tough for us to hang out as of right now. Overall, I probably have more emotional trauma from being ungodly high than I have damage done to any of our friendships. Today I ducked up by peeing in a litter box. It gets so much worse. This happened a few months ago and it has taken this long for me to type it up because it is probably the most brutally embarrassing thing that I have ever done. I'm not using a throwaway because that sounds like a lot of work. Setting the stage, I'm 24, the rest of the people in this story are around my age, maybe 20 to 25, it doesn't really matter. We were at my friend Jay's house drinking. Jay lives in a co-op house with 20 plus people living there and probably as many bedrooms. So my friends and I like to drink. It isn't the greatest hobby and I'm sure there are better things we could be doing with our time, but for now, we're happy. On this night, for whatever reason, we decided to really drink. I think the phrase that I used was "let's get drunk like it's high school." Jay and a few friends had just returned from a couple weeks long festival and we were all excited to see them, and apparently the best way to express that excitement was by partying with Handel's 1.75 liters of very cheap whiskey. Now, as anyone who binge drinks knows, there is a certain point you reach where it feels like the alcohol is no longer affecting you, that you can just keep drinking and drinking. We all hit that point at some point during the night, but kept on trudging along. I could probably write a whole book of today ducked ups off of the things we did that night, puking inside a mascot helmet, peeing on a friend's shoes, fighting a tree, etc. But this today I ducked up actually doesn't even take place until long after we called it a night and went to bed. Let me back up a little bit. So as the morning, wound down and we all headed to wherever we were sleeping for the night, I ended up naked in Jay's bed with her. Fun was had, well, as much fun as two incredibly sloppy drunk people can have, and we passed out for what I assumed was going to be a very heavy sleep. So imagine my surprise when a few hours later I was suddenly wide awake. Now, this wasn't your normal waking up. As I woke up I realized a few things. I was standing in the middle of Jay's room, I was still naked, I was still very drunk, and I had to pee, badly. Not like, okay let me put some pants on and run to the bathroom badly, I mean like I had maybe 2 seconds until 1 liter of whiskey, and probably no water, came flooding out of my disappointingly limp noodle in whatever direction it happened to be pointing at. Guys, I'm not proud of this, but I panicked. I didn't see a cup or a jar anywhere, but what I did see was Jay's cat's litter box. I didn't have time to weigh my options, I didn't have time to think about the ramifications, I just ran over and started unloading into that poor receptacle. There was so much pee, it just kept coming. The entire time I keep stealing glances over to the bed to make sure that Jay was still fast asleep, that she wouldn't witness my shame. At this point I have filled the litter box, the litter has stopped soaking up my urine and is now just floating in it. I have reached peak shame, this literally couldn't get any more embarrassing. Thank God she was still asleep. I finally finished up, shook myself dry, and started crawling around the floor looking for some clothes so I can dispose of my shame. The whole time I'm paying very close attention to Jay, I do not want her to wake up. As I am crawling right next to the bed, not recognizing any of the stuff I'm finding, Jay's eyes open wide and a few things become instantly clear. Jay does not have a cat. I am not in Jay's room. This is not Jay. In fact, this is a long-haired, very confused and very quickly getting angry man. My brain just short-circuited at this point. I started trying to mumble an apology about how I thought this was someone else's room and I didn't live there and I was lost. He wasn't having it, granted he was barely awake himself. He just tells me to get the duck out of his room, and then I stand up and he realized I'm naked. The last thing he said to me was, "And you're ducking naked? What the duck?" Before I apologized again and ran out of that room. I left the room, realizing it's light out, people will be waking up any minute now, and I am still butt-ass naked. Oh yeah, I was also on the 3rd floor of a house with 20 identical unlabeled rooms. I had fallen asleep in a room on the 1st floor. I ran around that house for 20 minutes trying to find some rhyme or reason. I was still very drunk. I finally found a dish towel to wrap around myself, which gave me a bit more confidence, and I started logically going about this. Finally found the room I fell asleep in, because I left the door wide open, with Jay still fast asleep, none the wiser. I climbed back into bed, and to this day, she has no idea about my early morning adventure. My drunk ass had slept, walked up 2 flights of stairs and entered some random room thinking it was the bathroom before I, thankfully, woke up. I was so embarrassed in the morning that I left with a shirt over my head in case the guy saw me, and just ran to my car. Never got brought up, and as far as I know, the guy doesn't even remember it.
Today I ducked up by creating a mini misogynist and starting a violent feminist uprising in my preschool classroom. This actually happened today, typing this up on my lunch break while the kiddos are napping. Background: I am a male teacher that works at a preschool attached to a church. I am not religious. This morning, I saw one of my male students hit a girl. I pulled him aside and explained to him why he shouldn't hit anyone, but especially not girls because he's a boy. He asked, "Why especially not girls? Does that mean I can hit boys and not get in trouble?" Being that we are attached to a church, and because I honestly didn't have a better answer on hand, I thought it would be safe to reply, "No, you need to always keep your hands to yourself, but God made boys stronger than girls so we can protect them, not hurt them." God damn it, I was wrong. Big mistake. The little boy seemed to have an aha moment in his head, as the idea clicked in his mind. "Okay, I won't hit girls. I will be strong and protect them," he says. After a few more minutes of time out, and apparently mulling over the mildly misogynistic thought I just inadvertently planted in his head, I allowed him to go back and play. Immediately, I knew I had ducked up. Did you know that boys are stronger than girls? He's running around the room telling everyone with ears that boys are stronger than girls, quickly earning the ire of the girls in the class. Now, mind you, this is a stage of development where most of the girls in the class are actually bigger than the boys. The tallest of which immediately claps back at him, "Nuh-uh. I'm bigger than all the boys in here, and I'm stronger too." He says it doesn't matter. Mr. Soprano just told me that God made boys stronger than girls so we can protect them. Right, Mr. Soprano? I literally face-palmed. I weakly tried to walk it back, saying, "Well, some girls are stronger than boys, but we should really just all keep our hands, oh my God." I was interrupted by the girl screaming at Taawak as she punched the boy square in the stomach, and all of the girls stanced up to fight all of the boys 1v1. It was madness. I could see seething hatred oozing from the eyes of the girls. They were bloodthirsty after their strength was questioned. One girl started pretending to use force lightning on a boy. I got them to settle down, and had talks with all of them about keeping our hands to ourselves and not hitting anyone regardless of gender. I still heard bickering under their breath of which sex was the strongest, but I at least ended the violence. Crisis averted.
Hey, if you want to see more similar videos like this one on daily basis, definitely hit that subscribe button and turn on your notification to see our tomorrow's even better video.